I felt like I hadn't lived enough. I was like, okay, yeah, I studied abroad for 5 weeks. Yeah, I did a Euro trip, but I was like, I want more than that, especially like at that age. I wanted more stories for myself, and I wasn't really happy with the story that I had written for myself at that time and the story that I was going to be writing for myself. So I just wanted to change that completely.
Welcome to the Venture-Ette Podcast, where women from all over the world share their stories of travel, moving abroad, and creating a new life for themselves, hoping to inspire you to live out your dreams by showing you how other women did it. I'm your host, Venture-Ette Ashley.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Venture-Ette Podcast. I'm Ashley, and today we're going to change things up a bit. So normally I have guests on the show and I have them share their story of their lives abroad. But today I'm going to be that guest today. One of my dear friends, Rose, is going to be today's guest host. And a little bit about her. We actually met back in high school and went to the same college together. And we were always just more like acquaintances. And it wasn't until 2017 when I came back for Christmas for a week where we reconnected and we realized we had a lot in common. But it wasn't until over this last year, since I've been back in the US, that our relationship has really grown and we've become closer than ever. And she was inspired to be on today's podcast because she wants to one day hopefully start a podcast, but also learn more about my story. And I immediately said yes, because I had been thinking for quite a while as to how to share more of my story and tell you what really went on in all of these countries that I've lived in. So I'm so pleased to welcome today's guest host, Rose.
Hi, I'm so excited that we're able to do this today.
I am too. Like, this is definitely very different since I'll be the guest instead of the host. But I wanted to ask you, what kind of sparked your interest in being today's guest host and doing this interview?
Well, I really love your podcast. I love hearing about all the stories of other women. It's really inspiring. But your story inspires me too. You've lived in 6 countries in 5 years and you've traveled to 21 countries. And, every time we talk about your story, it makes me want to do what you did. And, I've traveled a little bit, but I haven't ever moved or lived abroad. And every time we talk about your travels, it makes me want to do it. But I've never heard the story from the beginning. And so I got the idea to interview you and ask questions about your travels from the very beginning.
Oh, and honestly, like that, of course, means a lot to me just because I feel like everyone has a unique story. And I know like my story is unique to myself. So I'm really glad that we're doing this. And just share more about what it's really like to live in all these places and travel.
Yes. Yeah. Your story is so fascinating. You've lived in some unique places. So I'm excited to dive into that. So let's get started. I want to start from the beginning. So, you're a solo traveler. You've traveled all around the world, but before you started doing that on your own, where did it come from? Did you travel a lot as a kid, or what was your experience with travel before you first moved away?
Well, growing up, I didn't travel like a lot. I did travel like every year to Mexico, but that was to visit family. It wasn't really so much to travel. Mm-hmm. And since I was doing that since I was born, if anything, Mexico was just kind of like a second home. Mm-hmm. But I think what always kind of sparked it was from like the media, more so like watching like Anthony Bourdain and like seeing his travels and how, he connected with people, the foods that he was eating and the things that he was seeing like that. I feel like first just kind of, planted the seed in my mind as to like, oh, that would be so amazing to be able to experience that.
Mm-hmm. And when was that? Was that like college, high school, younger?
I think that was like high school, maybe middle school a bit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it kind of started there. And then also too, like growing up learning French, I got to do like a French trip with my French class in middle school. And that was my first time really experiencing something different than the US and Mexico where my family lived. And that I was like, whoa.
Where did you guys go?
We went to Quebec City.
Oh, cool. So you got to practice your French and stuff?
Yes, I got to practice my French and like, yeah, just experience like different foods. You know, at the time I wasn't vegan, so I had like duck and rabbit and all these like just dishes that I had never had before. But it was just, you know, I was 13, I believe, at the time, and I just thought this is so cool. Like this is so different, and especially growing up, you know, in the suburbs where everything, you know, is kind of more or less the same. There's not really anything that too different, you know, so that was just really exciting doing something. Yeah, just doing something in a different part of the world.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a good age because, you know, I went to Europe with my family when I was 14, and it's like you're young, but you're old enough to really understand that this is really cool and kind of appreciate it for what it is, even though you're not quite an adult yet. So it's a good age.
Exactly. So yeah, I think had I done it any younger, I wouldn't have appreciated it. But at the time I was, you know, in my teens. So I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then I know you studied abroad in college. So where did you go for that?
I studied abroad in Paris. I studied fashion there for like 5 weeks one summer. And I think that's definitely where I really thought or really got the idea that I want to live in Europe one day.
Mm-hmm.
Like I fell in love with the city. I remember we went to London for a weekend as well. And I don't know, I just felt like so much at home. Like there was just something about like those cultures where I just felt so comfortable.
What do you think it was about the culture that you felt that made you feel at home?
I don't know. I just feel like the adventure side of me was just really coming out. Like even back in the US in Portland, I was always going into the city, always trying to explore something new within my own city. So being able to do that in another part of the world, I just felt more in my element because I'm really exploring something I hadn't seen before. And I think just doing that makes me feel more like myself. It's just, I guess, yeah, exploring has just something that has been a part of me for so long, and being able to do that in Paris and other countries, it feels natural to me.
Right. So you got to travel a bit when you were in Paris, like other countries and stuff?
Just London. It wasn't until like after I graduated college, I did a Euro trip with my brother for 26 days. And from there, we went to a few countries in Western Europe. And again, like just being able to explore and being able to do something different and then like meet new people. Cause like even though I grew up very shy, I feel like I've grown out of my shell over the years. And so I just love.
You were shy?
Yeah, I was shy. A lot of people find that hard to believe. They're like, wait, you were shy? But I don't know. I feel like as I've gotten older, I've gotten more and more comfortable in my skin, and I just feel comfortable enough to just kind of talk more with strangers. So, but yeah, I just love that aspect of traveling.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's the same for you, but I feel like when I'm traveling, I feel even more comfortable to talk to strangers and just kind of more, I guess, extroverted than when I'm at home in Portland.
Yeah, because I feel like also when you're traveling, you're meeting like other people that also like to be out of their comfort zone as well, you know? So they're like more open to like talking with people that they don't know. And I just feel like you can have like a really good in-depth conversation with someone. Whereas I feel kind of like in places like Portland or in the US in general, like people don't always like to be so open. I feel like it can be like that in other countries as well. But when you're meeting like other travelers or you're in a country and they see a foreigner, they want to get to know that person a little bit more. So it's just a different mindset. And it's something that I just really like and feel comfortable with.
Right. Totally. So you said you went to study fashion and you got your degree in merchandising management. So you wanted to be in the fashion industry. And when you were in Paris, you were studying fashion. So did it ever occur to you like, oh, maybe I can still pursue fashion and live in Europe, or how did what were you thinking with that?
At the time, yeah, I was just thinking like maybe I can work my way up the ladder or something and like work my way up to a position where that it would allow me to travel or like live in another part of the world. Like, yeah, at the time, like fashion was just a huge passion of mine.
Mhm.
And so I just felt like, okay, well, I don't know if I'll live abroad, but I'm still going to pursue this career for sure. So I didn't really focus too much on living abroad at the time. It was just more so like getting like the job, which is what everyone tries to go for like after they finish college. So I ended up getting an assistant buying job here in Hillsboro, Oregon. And so, yeah, so at the time I was excited because it was exactly what I wanted at the time.
And then how long were you there before you moved away?
So I was there with the company for 2 years, but already a year in, I thought like that I had the idea of like, I need to leave because my future just kind of flashed in front of my eyes. And I just thought, this is it. I just didn't, I was like, this is it. I'm going to be doing this Monday to Friday, maybe go to the gym a few times a week after work and then just kind of make the most of my weekends and then like do the same thing, the following week. And it just didn't excite me. And at the time I was 23 when I had this realization and I was like, I felt like I hadn't lived enough. I was like, okay, yeah, I studied abroad for 5 weeks. Yeah, I did a Euro trip, but I was like, I want more than that, especially like at that age. I wanted more stories for myself. And I wasn't really happy with the story that I had written for myself at that time and the story that I was going to be writing for myself. So I just wanted to change that completely.
Yeah, that's really cool because that's a really young age to kind of realize, okay, this is not the life that I want. It's just I wake up, go to work, go to the gym, eat dinner, go to sleep and repeat.
Mm-hmm.
It takes people a while to realize that, especially when you're so fresh out of college. You're like, I got my degree. This is what I want to do. I want to see it through. And then people get really stuck in that cycle of like, no, I have to prove that I can do this. And so it's cool that you were like not attached to that.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that I did realize that early on because like you said, there's people that realize it way like later in life or sometimes like never at all or when it's too late, And so I'm very grateful that like I had the wake up call really early.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so you just a year into the job, you're like, this is not what I want. And then 2 years later, you quit and then you moved to Spain.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that process like for you? Like, why did you choose Spain and how did you move? Like, did you do a program? What were you doing in Spain? Tell me a little bit more about that.
So at first, I did try to get a job like within my field, which
Okay.
like to move abroad or to like even New York. Cause even at the time I was like, maybe I just need to get out of Portland.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to do that when you're trying to apply for entry level jobs like in other parts of the country, let alone like another country. So after a few months, I thought, okay, I need to go a different route. So I Googled jobs where you travel a lot and I found teaching English. And then I found a TEFL program to get the certificate. And while you're getting your certificate, you can actually apply for jobs. So there's a few websites. There's like Dave's ESL, but I was on footprints.com. And that's when I found the conversation assistant program in Spain, which there's quite a few of those around Spain. But the one I applied for was specifically for Catalonia, Spain. Mm-hmm. And with my program, what's unique about it is that you do live with a host family. I know not all programs you live with a host family, but mine did. And I just thought, okay, this could be like a really easy like transition to move to another country, but I don't have to worry about my accommodation because that would be taken care of. Meals, like your lunches during the week would be taken care of with the school. And then meals at home, if you eat with the family, well, they provide that for you.
Wow.
So you get all of that. So that's why you get to go on a student visa because it's like a cultural like learning experience because you're with their family, you're working at a school, but it's not a difficult job. You're just like meeting in small groups with children, helping them practice like speak English. And you get an allowance of €200 a month with the program that I was in. So I had a lot of savings because I was living at home at the time. So I felt like, okay, I have savings. I'll be living with a host family. So I just thought, okay, this is definitely very doable. And this would allow me to go to Spain. And that's kind of why I chose Spain, just because they had those kind of programs. So I thought it'd be kind of easy.
So it wasn't really like, oh, I want to go to Spain because Spain is like this. It was just the program that you liked happened to be in Spain, right?
Yeah. And I had been to Spain before when I did my Euro trip with my brother. And so I thought, okay, I love Spain. It's warm there. I do like the culture, but the program was just, it really like enticed me to like go even more.
So you said you had some savings. How much did you have before you left that made you like, okay, I feel good about this?
I had a couple grand. So not having to pay rent definitely helped a lot. So I know I'm very lucky and fortunate to have had that. I know not everyone does. So I had enough savings that I felt that I would be able to last, because the program was only 9 months. So I figured, okay, if I do this for 9 months, it'd be fine.
Right. Okay. Totally. That makes sense. So the program was 9 months. How was the program and how was it living with a host family?
So in the beginning, it was really good. I got there, I had an orientation, and the day I got there with orientation, I met my best friend, who we're still like besties to this day, Jess. And the day after that, that's when our host families came and picked us all up. And honestly, like I felt so welcomed. I was living with a single mom and her 9-year-old daughter, and they were so happy to have me there. They like prepared my room. They had, we went grocery shopping, and the mother was asking me what I like. And at the time I was a bit of a vegetarian. So she was definitely trying to be very accommodating. The school was great because I was the only American there. Like I was the only like English teacher there, because it was really small. I was in a small town right outside of Barcelona. And so I was kind of like a celebrity there in a way, because the kids would get so excited to see me. I just felt so welcomed. And then on top of that, Barcelona was like a 30-minute like ride away. And if you've ever been to Barcelona, like people would know how amazing of a city it is. So
it was my favorite city in Europe. So I get it.
Exactly. So I was on a high in the beginning. But then like over time, I just kind of felt like this isn't really for me, because I felt like I didn't really have the freedom that I was searching for, because I did have to really budget myself a bit strictly, because I was living off of savings and I was only getting a small allowance. And then my host family was great, but I just felt like I always had to check in with them with what I was doing. And of course, like I totally understand they're hosting me like out of respect, like it should be like that. But I just felt like, this is not really, I guess, what I thought I wanted it, but then I realized I actually really don't. And so I was very honest. I told my school and my host family about it, which they were really understanding about it. But then by the very end, my host mom and we did not end on good terms.
No, what happened?
It was very passive aggressive. I feel like, so I was trying, because I wanted to stay in Spain. So I stayed with the program for 3 months, but then I thought I want to stay longer. So I was looking for jobs. Like I actually worked at a chocolate shop for a day, and I couldn't go back to work because I didn't have the proper papers. Because even though I was on a student visa, I didn't have a Spanish social security number, which makes it really difficult to like find jobs. And so that didn't work out. And then I met a club promoter and it was doing club promotions, which long story short, that also ended because it was not the safest. And, but I was doing all these things while I was like preparing to move out. And I just remember the last week that I was there, she got upset because there were like some crumbs on the counter, and I was really clean, it was really clean, but obviously like not to her standards. And I apologized. And then after that, she just kind of went off on me. I remember the day before I was supposed to move out, because she was supposed to help me move. And she texted me the day before. I was in Barcelona. was working club promotions the night before. And she texted me saying, hey, I don't think I can help you move tomorrow. And I thought, this is weird because I don't have a car. I don't really know many people, And so I was like, this is weird for her to just back out when she knows I really do need the help.
Yeah.
So I asked her, is everything okay? Like, what's going on? And then that's when she kind of went off and felt like I didn't do enough in the program, like trying to spend more time with her and her daughter, even though I did. I definitely spent a lot of time with them, but I felt like it just wasn't enough. I think she just had this expectation of me that I feel like wasn't really possible. And in the end, she just kind of felt let down. I don't know, but she just...
Yeah, it seems like she had expectations of what it would be like to have a host, person at her house, like to host someone. And it just didn't go the way she expected.
Yeah, because either way, I was going to leave her home after 3 months, because had I stayed in the 9-month program, you were supposed to switch families every 3 months.
No way.
So regardless, I was going to leave anyways after the 3 months. But she took it quite hard. And then I remember I said, okay, well, I'll just move out today. And then I went back, packed all my stuff, or finished packing everything. And then she came home and she went over to the dresser where I had 2 necklaces on top that 2 of my best friends gave me, but they were gone. And she said she had taken them because she was holding them for collateral for the phone bill that was supposed to come the next month. And I was just like, seriously, this woman really doesn't trust me.
Oh my gosh.
And so my boyfriend at the time, he came across Barcelona, helped me take all my stuff out. And so I was on the sidewalk. I had to call a cab. So I'm standing there with my boyfriend. And also note, there was a piece of bread that I was eating. And when she came home, I put it in the dresser. And so then when I was on the sidewalk, my host mom comes out, says bye, drives off. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I left the bread in the dresser. She's going to be even more pissed. But yeah, she literally left me on the side of the curb, outside her home.
I believe it.
But I did get my necklaces back. I reached out to her the following month. She said the bill came and I went back to pay her, and then she gave me back my necklaces. But yeah, it was quite dramatic.
Wow. Okay, so didn't end on good terms, and then you moved out. So did you find a place to live by yourself?
I did. I went on a Facebook group called Barcelona Rentals, and I put up a post, I responded to someone's post who was looking for a flatmate.
Okay.
So I moved into an apartment, had 6 other people from different countries, right in the Gothic quarter. So it was beautiful. It was, like I said, it was in the neighborhood I wanted, and the people that I was living with was really cool. But long story short, it just didn't work out. Like I said, I was working club promotions. That wasn't safe. And then I did get a part-time job at an English center. The woman agreed to hire me, but she was paying me under the table, because I couldn't really technically work there legally, but I had to beg her. But in the end, it just wasn't going to be sustainable. So I had to make the decision to come home after 5 months total in Barcelona at the time.
Okay. All right. So you come home, and then what did you do? Did you have a job lined up, or how long were you here?
Well, I came back and I had 2 job interviews in San Francisco. They were marketing jobs. So the week after I came back, I went down, did my interview. Didn't work out, which thank goodness, because when I was there, I just realized that I couldn't do it. I didn't want to live in the States and live that kind of quote unquote normal life. I just wasn't ready. I thought maybe my 5 months in Barcelona was the stint I needed. And then I quickly realized it wasn't. So I got a job at Nordstrom working retail.
In Portland.
Yeah. And I worked there for, I think, 5 months. I told myself I just need enough money to get out of the country because I didn't want to be here working retail for the holidays, and I just didn't want to spend any more time in the U.S. than I needed to. So
you were able to get out before the holidays?
Yes, I left. I moved to Istanbul.
Wow.
So I came back from Barcelona the end of February. And then I left and moved to Istanbul that August.
Whoa. Okay. So why did you pick Istanbul? What was your draw there, and what were you doing there?
So I chose Istanbul because one, I had always wanted to go there. But secondly, and most importantly, is that if you're going to teach English, I knew it was a good place to go as a teacher because you can find jobs where they pay for your accommodation, not with the host family this time. And they'll pay for your flight or reimburse your flight going to Istanbul. So the benefits were just really good. And like I said, I didn't have a lot of money because I used a lot of the savings in Barcelona.
Right.
Like I said, I just needed enough to get out of here because I knew I would be reimbursed for the flight. And that's the program that I found. And also same thing, the school would take care of your lunch. They also serve breakfast, and Turkey is also really cheap to live as well. Like if you're buying groceries or traveling around. So, and also too, I wanted to travel more of Eastern Europe. And that was more of the freedom that I wanted, was not just to live in another country, but to be able to travel more like outside of the country.
Like have access to other countries. And so Istanbul was like a good hub for that.
Oh yeah. It was like a country a month in the 10 months that I was there.
Oh, wow. Okay. So 10 countries.
Well, not 10 countries, but like almost every month, I guess.
Okay. So what was it like living in Istanbul? Like before you moved, what did you think about it? And what was it like once you got there, and how did it compare?
So this time, before I left this time, I kind of had a feeling I was going to be gone for even longer. So this time was the time that I sold more of my stuff because I was like, like I said, I was just trying to get as much money as I could to leave. And, I was excited to go, but I was also nervous because at the time there was just like a lot of political stuff happening at the time. There were terrorist attacks, there were bombings, there was like issues that were happening because like the Kurdish at the time. And I wasn't like so much worried about it, but a lot of friends and family, they were more concerned about it, understandably. So they were always asking me like, are you sure you want to do this? Have you read this article? Have you read the news? And I'm like, yes, but I chose to go because one of my flatmates that I had when I was in Barcelona, she's from Istanbul, and she was back in Istanbul at that summer. And I asked her, I was like, hey, the media's saying this, like, please tell me the truth. Like, how is it really in Istanbul? And she said, Ashley, like, you'll be fine. Like, just come, like, you'll be fine. And I trust her, So I thought, okay, if she says it's fine, and she's in Istanbul.
And it's usually like that. It's usually like not what the news says it is. The people that are living there, they're like, it's fine.
Exactly. Because like when I went there, yes, there were some incidences that happened while I was there, but it wasn't like it was the whole city. And where I was living was a suburb outside of the city center. So I was definitely in a much safer place. So that was one thing that kind of put me or made me feel a bit uneasy before I went. But when I got there, it was definitely quite the struggle because in Turkey, people did not at the time speak English. So when I was in Spain, I do speak Spanish. So that was very easy for me to communicate with locals.
Right.
But in Turkey, I did not know Turkish, and Turkish does not sound like French or Spanish or English in any way.
Right.
So I could not make out anything. And the day I arrived there, that's when I just learned the hard way that no one speaks English. So I immediately went to Duolingo, started learning Turkish. Istanbul is a city of 15 million people. So I had to get used to the traffic and using the public transportation there, which is it's great. They have so many options, but if you're like on a bus or anything like that, it just takes a lot of time to get from one part of the city to another. So that was also something to get used to. And then my first month there, it was just difficult because my recruiting company, they place you, right? They're the ones that choose your accommodation, and they pay because they're paying for it.
Okay.
But they put me in a neighborhood where, it was beside the neighborhood where my school is, but it was very difficult to get to and from the school because in the contract, they're supposed to provide transportation like to and from the school, but they put me and my flatmates in an area so far out, the shuttle van wouldn't even go to us. And what was surrounding us was literally fields because it was a new up and coming place. It was under construction. Like the strip malls still didn't have stores in them yet. It was still like being built. And so trying to leave the apartment was just a hassle because you're trying to order taxis and you don't speak Turkish. So you're like learning Turkish along the way to like order a taxi. And then to top it off, we didn't have any gas for cooking, no hot water for showers, no cable or internet, no, so we were complaining about this. And at first they didn't want to do anything. They were just saying, well, this is kind of how it is. And we're like, no, this is not okay. We're foreigners. We're not Turkish and we don't have a car. Because I remember me and my flatmates, we would hitch rides from the bus stop, which was far, to our apartment. Like I got in so many strangers' cars, but like I trusted them because like that's how bad the walk was. You didn't want to walk it because it was so just sad.
You're like, I'll take the risk.
yeah, I'll take the risk going in someone's car, So we complained over and over to the point where my flatmate complained to the principal about it. And the principal had to like call them and he like yelled at them in Turkish. And then he finally said like, you're moving tomorrow because they agreed that they would move us, but they were taking forever to move us. And so when the principal called, he said, you're moving tomorrow. And that's because my flatmate was crying. We're like, really? We have to cry and beg just for them to do something about it?
Oh my gosh.
So then they finally moved us to a much better apartment closer to the school where we could walk 10 minutes because that was what's supposed to have happened. That was in the contract that you could be able to commute 10 minutes away. And then, so we were finally like in an apartment where there's hot water. We could finally cook things, we could walk to stores easily. Like I had never felt so grateful to just have things just nearby and like anything. It was nice. It was a nice experience still because it allowed me and my flatmates to get to know each other because I had a flatmate from Canada, one from South Africa, and one from Hong Kong. And all you had was just time to get to know each other.
Yeah, because you don't have internet.
We didn't have anything. We just found entertainment doing other things.
It's like a reality TV show. They're like, we're going to put you in this house with 5 other girls and you have no internet, no hot water. You can't cook food. You can't go anywhere.
Yeah, I would joke and I said it was like as if we were like Rapunzel stuck in a tower because we were on the top floor of this apartment building. But yeah, it was quite the experience the first month.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, but it got better, right? You moved.
It got better. And then over time, like I said, I, learned Turkish. It was easier over time to get around because I knew the city better. And then, and then also too, it was just a unique experience being a woman there because, it's just men look at women differently, especially when you're like a foreign woman. Like they're just very forward, which can be flattering, when someone's very direct and like, puts themselves out there, but it can be kind of a lot when you're like not used to it, so that was also kind of different and unique. Yeah.
In all your travels, has there been another country that was anything like that in terms of the culture of men and women and how forward they are?
So far, no. Like I've been to other like Muslim countries and Turkey I think was just kind of the most different and unique in that sense. Because also too, like when I was there, like I lived in a very westernized suburb. So a lot of the women there, they didn't cover up. They wore clothes like what you would see in the US, but even then it was still quite modest. So you really had to think twice. Like if it's hot out, like it's probably not the best idea to wear like short shorts or like a skirt because that would get you a lot of attention. So, so you still have to be quite mindful about what you wore because if you wore something that's in any way kind of revealing, there were times where I was followed. They were just very forward and it was just something I'm not used to. So you kind of had to think more about how you present yourself.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you're in Turkey for 10 months and then you went to Vietnam, right? So why did you choose Vietnam?
So it actually was not my first choice. I was trying to move to Thailand because I had always wanted to go to Asia, but I was always kind of like intimidated about it just because I knew it was going to be just very different from the US. But after living in Turkey for 10 months, I felt like ready to like go to Asia. And especially because a lot of the girls that I met in Turkey, they also moved to different parts of Southeast Asia. So I felt, okay, if these girls can do it, like I definitely can too. So I was looking for jobs, and then a friend of mine, she actually sent me a job that was in Vietnam. She said, hey, like this job looks pretty good, like good pay, good benefits. You might want to look into it. So I just applied, and, luckily I got accepted.
Okay. So wasn't your first choice. You get the job, you move to Vietnam. And what was it like?
Honestly, so I also want to point out that like before I went to Vietnam, like I did spend like a week in Malta, like by myself. So I felt like very confident about going to Vietnam. I just felt like I had more confidence in myself, like going to a place that's very different.
So why did that give you the confidence to go to Asia?
Well, it just because like I went by myself. That was like the first time where I actually did like a vacation by myself. Like even though I had moved to 2 countries by myself, but I was like, okay, this is my first holiday on my own, and I had a great time, and I just felt like, okay, like, I'll be fine moving to Vietnam. But also before I moved to Vietnam, I had put up posts looking for accommodation in Hanoi. And I had like a great response. And I remember there was like one couple whose apartment I was interested in. It turned out that they were also working for the company that I was going to work for. And so they were like, oh, let's Skype. And so we Skyped, and they were like telling me everything I needed to know about Hanoi. And it just made me like so excited, everything that they were saying, and the fact that they were working for the company that I was going to work for. I had like good vibes, I guess. I just felt really good about my decision about going to Vietnam.
Yeah, that's cool. So okay, so did you do a program, or did you not do that this time?
So this time it was different because it wasn't like a program, like you said, like where everyone shows up at the same time and you do orientation together. I was going to work at an English center where they were hiring new teachers like all the time. So this time, I guess you could say I was more so on my own. Like I was the new teacher, like in the city or like at my English center. And I had to find my own accommodation. So that was my first time where I moved to a country where I find the accommodation like on my own at first.
What was that like?
It was actually pretty easy. Like if anyone moves to Hanoi, like just go on Facebook and join Hanoi Massive and just put up a post saying that you're going to move there. Cause that's what I did. And like I said, the people were so kind that responded. I found a place that I rented out for a week that was super cheap. It was like $12 a night. And I rented that out for a week just to buy myself time to find a place. And the day I arrived, I looked at 2 places, and the second one ended up being the one. And I loved my housemates. There was like, I think like 4 or 5 people that lived in the house from different countries, like from Ireland, Australia, South Africa. And like, they were just so kind and welcoming and so helpful. Like I definitely had a few like problems along the way, and they were always so eager to help. So I felt really, really lucky.
That's awesome. Okay, so you start the job. How was everything in Vietnam? What was hard or easy? Your favorite things?
Well, I would first say like what was great about it was one, how like ridiculously cheap it is there. I was still just kind of in shock. Like Turkey was cheap, but like Vietnam was like cheaper. But one hurdle that I definitely had to overcome was, of course, learning to drive a motorbike. When I did my interview for the job, I asked the recruiter, what is one thing I need to know about moving to Hanoi? And he said, you will learn how to drive a motorbike. And I thought, okay, I had never driven one in my life. I'd never even been on one. So I thought, okay, when I go to Vietnam, that's what I'm going to have to do.
Were you scared?
At first, not so much. But then when I got there, if you haven't seeing how the traffic is, like go on YouTube and just like Google like Hanoi traffic. That was the most intimidating part, because driving a motorbike is one thing, but then driving it in like that kind of traffic is just a whole other monster.
You weren't nervous, but then you saw the traffic and you were like, oh.
Yeah, I was a bit intimidated, but I knew I had to do it because there's not really public transportation. Well, there's public transportation. There are buses, but I was told they weren't that great. And yes, there are very cheap taxis. There's Uber and there's Grab, which is like Asia's like Uber. But I don't want to have to be relying on like other people to drive me around. And driving a motorbike, it's so cheap. Like you can rent one. I was renting one for $50 a month, or you could buy a cheap one and then sell it when you decide to leave the country. So I thought, okay, I want my independence, so I need my motorbike. So I think the second day I went to go try to rent a motorbike, and it didn't go well because they were trying to teach me, like I was talking to a 10-year-old boy because he spoke English. His dad didn't speak English, and there was a mechanic who also didn't speak English. And the three of them are trying to teach me. I was not... And I don't think, they were trying to teach me. It didn't go well because I was either accelerating too much or too little. So they gave me my money back. I left defeated. I was like, well, I tried. But then they texted me, told me to come back. So I went back the next day, met the 15-year-old daughter who spoke English. She told me she had a small little Honda Scoopy that she didn't have to drive. And her dad said I could rent out. So, before they let me rent it, though, they had me practice first, driving back and forth, like in front of their house, like a little kid learning to ride a bike or something for the first time. But I got the hang of it. So then I got to rent it. And then I just practiced on my own, like around the Taeho Lake, which is like in the northern part of Hanoi. And then I just remember a few days, I think, or actually maybe even like the next day, that's when I first drove in the crazy traffic because I was trying to take myself to a restaurant. I was like, I will travel for food. So, so that was something to get used to. And I definitely had a few incidences of like where my motorbike broke down. Like it broke down one time in the middle of a bridge, or I ran out of gas and my housemates had to come pick me up and buy a water bottle to fill up with gas, like to fill up my motorbike. It was definitely a very different driving experience.
And did you have any accidents?
In Vietnam, I had one. I had another one in Bali, but in Vietnam, I had a man, he grabbed me like twice. Like he like pulled over like next to me, grabbed me like on my chest, and then drove away. And then I was driving, and I was like, it was at 9:30 at night, but on a very like public and like lit road. And he at one point was waiting for me, and he had his hand out, and I didn't see him till the last second because I was driving kind of fast, but not overly fast. And I just crashed into him because he was just there waiting to kind of grab me. And we both fell over. And and of course I got up. I was hysterical. I was hitting him. I was angry. I was just sad. But he wasn't fazed. He just got back on his motorbike and just drove away. And there were these other Vietnamese men that came and helped me up. And there wasn't really anything we could do. So I just had to just drive home. Where again, like my housemates, like bless them, they took care of me. They were, trying to make sure I was okay and try to help me out, make sure I was feeling better. So,
yeah, that must have been traumatic.
A little bit, yeah. But it was one of those things that's kind of like, well, I can't. I was like, I'm not going to let this defeat me. Like, I don't want to like stop driving my motorbike. It's the way to get around. So it's just kind of like you just kind of have to push through and just keep going.
But the first time after that incident, was it kind of scary for you or what?
A little bit, yeah. The first few days, I was a bit anxious every time I would approach that general area where that happened, because that was like the way I got home. So I was, a little nervous, but then over time, I just kind of forgot about it. Well, I didn't forget, but like I just kind of pushed past it. So
yeah. Okay. All right. So when you were in Vietnam, did you get to travel to a lot of different countries?
I probably didn't travel like to that many countries. Like I did get to go to Thailand and Malaysia, and I did travel around Vietnam a bit, which was what I wanted. I wanted to see more of like just Southeast Asia and especially Vietnam. So yeah, so it was just really nice to explore like that part of the world. And then what I loved about Vietnam was like the friendships that I got to make, like with my housemates and my workmates. So I had like a nice like community there. So I was supposed to stay for a year, but I ended up staying for a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just that's the thing with like living in these kind of places. The people definitely help make it a lot better.
For sure.
And Vietnamese people, they're like so nice and so friendly. Like besides the one incident that I had, I always felt really safe there. To be honest. So yeah, I felt very comfortable there at the time. Besides, the one thing I didn't really like so much was, of course, the traffic. Like I said, it always just made me angry. And then also, too, there was a lot of pollution there. So that also wasn't ideal. But
was that like the most polluted place you've lived in?
Oh, yes. I didn't even know it was that polluted until I got there. I was like, oh, I somehow missed this information.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't know that about Hanoi or Vietnam in general, I guess.
Yeah, with Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, they're yeah, quite polluted. So of course I had to wear like a face mask, when driving, and and there's a smog like all the time. So yeah, definitely not the best air quality for sure.
Yeah. But you did make a lifestyle change there, right? A healthier lifestyle change?
Yeah. No, Vietnam was where I became vegan. I think I started the transition like 6 months into living there.
Okay.
It took me like 6 months, like after that decision to fully become vegan. First got rid of meat and then eggs. And the last thing was cheese. So,
is there a lot of cheese in Vietnam? Did you eat a lot of cheese there?
No, you don't see cheese. There is cheese. There were like Western shops where you could buy cheese from your home country, but otherwise, or if you went to a Western restaurant.
Right.
But yeah, there were some actually really good pizza spots in Hanoi, like really, really good.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. So I think that's why it was so difficult for me to like give up the cheese, because there were such good pizza spots with good cheese, but then eventually I cut it all out.
So, what made you go for the, lifestyle change?
I don't know what sparked the interest to like try to become healthier, but I just remember like I had the idea to read the book, The China Study. And that book was really convincing to want to be more plant-based. So when I was there, a lot of people ask like, oh, was it like difficult to like transition? And I was like, honestly, no. Like Hanoi was like the perfect place to become vegan, because there were so many vegan options, whether it was Vietnamese food or Western food. I mean, when I was there was like a vegan festival, and there were so many vegan restaurants opening up when I was there. And the food was good. Like it was so good. And it's so cheap as well. So it was like, okay, it's cheap, it's good, and it's vegan. Like it was just really easy to transition, thankfully.
So you're in Vietnam for a year and a half, and then you went back to Spain, right?
Yes, I did. Because, well, one, I was dying to go back ever since I left the first time. But I had this opportunity to eventually start working this remote job that was going to allow me to get the EU Blue Card. And I thought, perfect, dream come true. Work remotely, get to live legally in Barcelona. I mean, what could be better? So I went back to Barcelona. I was just so happy to be there. Like, I just feel so much at home when I was there. And because I had friends that were still there, that, of course, like made it better, because it's like, okay, I actually know people and I know Barcelona really well, like how to get around. And a friend of mine, he let me stay with him until I found my own apartment, which he kind of helped with as well. And so it was just easy, like the energy there, the vibe, I just love. And then my best friend, Jess, like she came to visit me for a week from Manchester. So it was just like, it just all felt right. And it was all working out at the time. But the remote job that I was supposed to start was kept getting pushed back. And I was there on a tourist visa. So I thought, okay, well, I don't want to be wasting my tourist visa here because it's only lasts for 3 months and you can only use it 3 months in a 6-month period. So, so I started to worry. So that's when I applied with VIP Kid, but I wasn't getting any jobs at the time. And this was like January 2018. And I thought, okay, well, it doesn't seem like I can stay Barcelona for much longer if I don't start this job soon. So I figured, okay, I'll go to another country for a little bit and then come back. So that's why I decided to go to Buenos Aires, Argentina, because I had an aunt and uncle that were living there at the time for my uncle's job. And I always wanted to go to South America. So I figured, okay, well, this is a perfect opportunity. I had quite a bit of savings from living in Vietnam. And, I would have a place to stay. So I booked a one-way flight.
Okay. So then you were going to just visit, right?
Yeah, I was only meant to visit. Like I said, it was only one way. So I didn't know for how long, but I knew it wasn't going to be forever. I figured this should just buy me some time until I finally start this remote job. So that was just kind of the plan, just to see family for a little bit.
Yeah. And what was it like being in Argentina and being with your family?
Well, for one thing, I was so happy to see them. I hadn't seen my aunt and uncle and my older cousin in 4 years. And my aunt, she had 2 younger boys. The 5-year-old I had seen when he was a baby, but I hadn't met the 3-year-old at the time. So it was really nice to meet him. And I had always wanted to go to Argentina. And my aunt was like, oh, it's a very European, city. Well, Buenos Aires is. And so, Buenos Aires is beautiful. It's European. It's very lively. The people are so friendly. It also did take getting used to their style of Spanish because their Spanish is very unique and different.
Very different. Yeah, it's very hard to understand.
It is. But, and then my aunt and uncle, they were so sweet and trying to make me feel welcome. My uncle would invite some of his coworkers that were more my age so I could have people to hang out with.
And what was it like being vegan there?
Was definitely probably the most difficult country to be vegan. But I do want to point out that vegetarianism was actually pretty big at the time. It was growing. Cause if you're in the city center, you would definitely find vegan options, vegetarian options at restaurants. And, at supermarkets, you didn't really see things like tofu or oat milk or anything like that. But there were these smaller shops that were throughout the city where they did have coconut yogurt, quinoa, veggie patties and all that stuff. So you could find it. It's just that you just had to really seek them out a bit more. But also too, eating out in Buenos Aires is quite expensive. That was one thing that was kind of shocking of Argentina is that it's actually kind of expensive. Eating out, it's kind of home, US prices. Same with shopping. Shopping is quite expensive. Public transportation was the one thing that was pretty cheap.
Was it a pretty good system down there? Was it easy to get around and stuff?
Oh yeah, it was. The public transportation there was great. So that was really good. But so you didn't really want to eat out all the time because it was quite expensive. So I did eat at home a lot, with my family, and so I still was able to stay vegan, but it was just more difficult, especially when you go outside of the city. That's where it's definitely more difficult to find vegan options. But if you stay within the city, it was definitely a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. It was manageable.
Yes. But unfortunately, so I went out one weekend with one of my uncle's workmates because she was in her earlier 20s. And we went out one night, but then the next day we went out with a group of people for food at a Mexican restaurant, and my purse got stolen. My aunt had warned me, be careful because Argentina, their economy, isn't so great. The cost of living is quite high compared to the salaries that people normally get. So pickpocketing is a huge thing there.
Europe.
Yeah, Europe, but really bad there. And so, but I definitely didn't see it coming because we were in the back of the restaurant. I was sitting beside the wall. My purse was hanging on the chair, also beside the wall, and I was facing the front door. So it's kind of you wouldn't think when you're in the back of a restaurant overlooking the whole restaurant, like it would get stolen. But a guy came in. I remember I noticed him coming in, but I didn't notice him leave. And I was with 4 other people at this table, and he somehow just took my purse so swiftly with none of us noticing. Luckily, my phone was on the table, but yeah, like my purse was gone and my bank cards and my license was in it. Luckily, not my passport, thankfully, but it was.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That would have been
and
so
with
much
the bank
worse.
cards, it was a bit of a nightmare. Like the American one was easy to get, but I had my Vietnamese bank card, which still had quite a bit of money in. And let's just say it took several months, but I finally got to get a new Vietnamese bank card thanks to my friends that live there. So, yeah.
Wow.
It was, yeah. So that didn't go well. And then to top it off, the remote job I was supposed to start, it fell through, unfortunately. So then I just thought, great, I'm now kind of stuck in Argentina and I don't really know what to do at this point.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So what happened after that?
Well, so I was panicking a little bit too, because I wasn't getting bookings with VIP Kit at the time because it was Chinese New Year. It was brand new. So I was panicking a bit, but then finally March came and I finally started to get bookings. And I thought, okay, I guess I'll just do this for a while in the meantime. And when I was in Buenos Aires, that's when I launched my blog. That also kind of came out of a place of desperation because I just didn't really know what to do. And I just figured I might as well just start a blog. I don't know. I just, So I ended up staying there for 3 months and I was thinking a lot of what to do because, you know, as an American, you can stay there for 3 months. And my aunt and uncle, they were like, you can stay here longer. Like you can just go to Uruguay for a day and then come back and, you know, renew your visa. And I was like, thanks. But I was like, I feel like I need to go.
So you weren't loving it there?
No, I loved it. Like I genuinely loved it, but I just didn't see myself staying there any longer. Like I didn't really want to stay. Like I loved staying with my aunt and uncle, but I was like, I don't want to be here forever, you know, especially as an adult, you know, like, and then also too, I was like, I could get my own place, but I just didn't really see myself staying there any longer. I felt like it was time to go. You know, so I, you know, didn't want to go back to Asia. I didn't want to come back to the US. I was like, I can't really go back to Spain. Well, I could, but only for like 2 months. So I was like, where do I go? And then when I was, so again, Google, you know, always comes in handy. I like Googled cheap places in Europe. And one of the places that came up was Manchester, you know, which is where my friend, you know, Jess is from. So I messaged her and I was like, you know, how's the cost of living, you know, and she told me, you know, it's pretty good. Like you'd be fine if you came here. So I thought, all right, perfect. I'm going to move to Manchester. And I had been there before the Christmas, my first Christmas abroad, like after I met Jess, like I actually did get to go to Manchester and spend Christmas with her and her family. Yeah. So I already had that connection with like Manchester and Jess and her family. So I felt like very comfortable to move there. So yeah, I like booked again, another one-way flight. And this is all in 2018, mind you, like Spain for 1 month, then Argentina for 3. And then I was like, okay, now on to Manchester. And this was like in May 2018.
So you moved to Manchester and then did you stay with Jess?
So I did for a weekend. She was kind enough to let me stay with her for the weekend, but then she was helping me find my own place. So then we found this room for rent in Salford, which is like a suburb literally next to Manchester. And it was like a 5-8 minute drive from Jess's apartment in the city center. So it was like perfect because we wanted to live close to each other. I was like, I don't want to live. I'm like, I'm here to be with you. Like, but yeah, so we found this like really great room in this really nice house. The landlord, he was so nice. And like he had decorated the house really nice, you know, so it felt very homey. And I was living with 6 other guys, like in this house, but they were all so nice. Like they were so sweet. Did end up dating one of them, but no, I loved it. It was a perfect location. I loved who I lived with. And yeah, it was really easy to get around Manchester as well. They also have really good public transportation. Of course, they have Uber. So it was really easy to get around.
And was it pretty easy being vegan there?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like Jess, she's also vegan. And so there's so many vegan restaurants and like Manchester, like over the years has definitely become like a lot more trendier. There's definitely parts of Manchester where it's become a little bit more hipster, especially like in the northern quarter. There's a lot of cool, really like hipster bars and a lot of like cool hipster vegan spots. So yeah, so it was, super easy. And then the supermarkets as well. It was like so easy to find like vegan, like alternatives or even like pre-made like dishes that were fresh. Like they were like freshly made that day, but you can obviously just take them home and heat them up. Um, so there was a lot of that and it was like quite affordable. So yeah, no, being vegan there is great.
Okay, so tell me about what it was like for you to get into the country. I know it was kind of a situation.
It was. So I had been to like England a few times. Like I said, I went to Manchester December 2014 for Christmas. And then actually earlier that same year when I was in Barcelona, I went to the UK again, but just for a weekend. And even when it was just for that weekend, I was like heavily interrogated. They were like, why are you here? Who do you know here? How did you meet them? And all this stuff. And I'm like, and I was only going there for 2 days. So then when I came back a few months later in that May, the plan was originally to be there for 6 months, but I didn't want to write 6 months on the landing card that you, of course, submit to the officer. So I put 3 months. I was like, maybe that will be less suspicious. No, they were still like interrogating me, like asking me the same questions. Who do you know here? How did you meet this person?
Why did they do that? Is it because you're a U.S. citizen or do they just do that to everybody?
Well, I think it was probably because I'm so my uncle who was a diplomat, he said this, he said he thinks it's because, at the time I was, about to turn 28. So I'm like this young girl that's saying I'm going to stay there for 3 months, so it's kind of like, how can she afford that? Like kind of what she's doing here. But like I said, when I went a few months before for just 2 nights, I was also heavily interrogated. But I guess they want to make sure that I don't illegally like immigrate there or something. So I was being asked all these questions and then eventually it came out that I work online and they said, well, technically you can't work while you're on a tourist visa here. I was like, yeah, but like, it's an online job. It's not taking away from any like UK citizens, it's a Chinese company for Canadians and Americans. And, he was just writing all these notes down on the back of my landing card. And he said, we're going to, heavily watch you. And he was saying if you'd like tried to leave after 3 months and then come back, I might not be let back in. I just thought, what? Like, I'm not doing anything illegal.
Yeah.
Like, because legally as an American, you can stay there for 180 days, 6 months, So because of that, like me and Jess, I was going to be there for the summer and we wanted to do trips to like go to Ibiza and like all that stuff. But I was like, Jess, I don't think I can leave the country. Like, I was like, I don't think I'll be let back in.
But so you didn't go anywhere during your time in England?
I did. And I did it not so legally. So one of my really good friends that I met in Vietnam, he was also my housemate. And, he's originally from Dublin, Ireland. Mm-hmm. And he was still in Vietnam at the time, but he told me, Ashley, like, I'm going to go back to Dublin for my 30th birthday and visit my family before he traveled to South America for a bit. Mm-hmm. And he said, since you're going to be in Manchester, it'd be great if you came because it'd be such a short trip. And I thought that'd be amazing because I've always wanted to go to Ireland and like see one of my good friends. I thought like, yes, but I told him, what had happened. I told him, I don't know if I'll be able to go. So we were looking at alternatives. Like, there's a ferry from Manchester to Dublin, but I wasn't sure if I would go through the same interrogation process coming back to Manchester. So it wasn't until my friend's dad suggested that I fly to Belfast in Northern Ireland and then from there take a bus to Dublin in Ireland because there's like no border patrol between Northern Ireland and Ireland. So they said like it should be fine. And I was like, are you sure? Like, are you sure you'll be okay? Like, and he was like, yeah, I think you'll be fine. So I thought, okay, let's just do it, So I like bought a ticket to Belfast and, flew there and then took the 2-hour bus ride to Dublin. And it worked because, like I said, like there's no border patrol. It's literally just a highway. And the only reason why I knew I got into Ireland was because I got a text from Vodafone, which was my cell phone service provider in Europe, getting a text being like, you are now in Ireland, but you will not get any roaming fees because of my plan. And I thought, great, I did it, But I get there and I'm like the butt of all jokes because I'm Mexican. And so they're like, oh, she's an illegal Mexican, across the border, illegally, illegal immigrant. Oh my God, I heard all the jokes. But it worked. But it worked. It was like hilarious, but it was so worth it. I like had the best time. I was there for 5 days. It was so worth it. And then of course I had to take the bus back to Belfast and then flew back to Manchester, and there was no issues.
Interesting. Okay. So coming back, it wasn't a problem.
No, because of course, North Ireland is still part of the UK. So,
I see. It's about where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay. So how long were you there for?
So I ended up staying in the UK for 4 months.
And then you went to Bali.
Yes. That was a decision that was made the day I arrived in Manchester the day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Jess, I get there. Jess picks me up from the airport. We go back to her place. She's like, what are you going to do after, Manchester? And I said, I don't know, just got here. And she said, well, I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm just kind of, going with the flow here.
Like one step at a time.
Yeah, but she had always wanted to go to Bali. I had already been to Bali. I went for a week, like the month before I left Vietnam with some friends.
Oh, okay.
And I liked it. Like I had a great time, but I didn't really think much of it. Like I didn't think to go back or even live there. But Jess was like, I've always wanted to go. I want to live there. She's like, would you want to do it? And I just kind of thought, well, why not? Because I didn't have plans after the UK. So I figured, why not go to Bali and live on an island?
Yeah. Okay. So then that wasn't your first time, but, I know Bali, a lot of people go there for like, business ventures or spiritual, like healing or health reasons. So was that part of why you wanted to move there?
No, like not for me personally, because honestly, like the funny thing is the first time I went to Bali, I didn't really know any of that. And if anything, Jess and I, we wanted to go to work more on kind of like business ventures and like ideas that we had. And which I was totally down for because honestly, since I started teaching in 2014, I knew that wasn't like my passion. But it allowed me to travel. And so I was very happy with that. But, over the years, I was kind of like, I would definitely love to do something that I'm more passionate about, do something different, And so that was kind of the plan that we had, that we wanted to just kind of explore some of these like business ideas that we had and, create content while we were there. So that was the plan that we both had going to Bali.
Okay. And then how long were you there?
So we ended up I stayed in Bali for 8 months and Jess stayed for 7.
Okay. And what was it like being in Bali the second time?
The second time. No, yeah. Living there is it's a whole other experience, of course, just like with anywhere. The first month was, of course, exciting. Like we lived in Ubud for a month, and Ubud, like if you don't know, it has beautiful rice fields and just like amazing, amazing food. And Ubud is definitely the more spiritual part of the island. Like a lot of yogis, a lot of spiritual activities, which at the time I really wasn't that into, but I was open to it. I was like, okay, I'm here. Might as well make the most of it. And then of course, it was just exciting. You're on this beautiful island in a beautiful part of the world. So it's like fun and it's exciting. But then after that, we moved to Canggu after a month, and we loved it there. Canggu is definitely like less spiritual. It's definitely a bit more party place. Very trendy. You see a lot of influencers, like a lot of good looking people. Like it's just like a whole other world.
Okay.
But I just feel like that's just kind of when I feel like Jess and I, like especially me, we started to kind of go through like some internal struggles, just kind of figuring out like, what do we want to do exactly? Like, is this path right? Just kind of questioning everything. So and that started in Canggu.
So you were questioning everything, including the reason why you went in the first place?
Yeah, like I was just kind of just a bit unsure because like something just kind of felt off and I couldn't really put my finger on it. And I was just, yeah, and that's the thing about Bali, because like you said, people do go there for spiritual reasons to, kind of, find themselves. And like I said, that was not what I wanted at all, because I didn't know of that, but that's what ended up happening. Like I kind of went through this like spiritual journey while I was there, which, like that's the thing. Like you're in a beautiful place, but that doesn't mean everything's going to be like perfect and that you're going to be like happy all the time. Like you're still going to go through like your internal problems.
Yeah. Your problems don't just, they follow you.
They do. Exactly. You can never escape them. And I've definitely learned that a lot. Like even like with heartbreak, I've had to say difficult goodbyes, or I've had difficult breakups, and even that, just because you leave, it doesn't make it any easier. If anything, it actually makes it harder.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Especially when you're somewhere new and you don't know anybody and you're by yourself.
Yeah.
So that's funny. So you didn't go there to find yourself, but then you ended up finding yourself anyway. I feel like that's a pretty classic Bali situation. I hear that a lot, where you go there intentionally to find yourself, or you do it anyway, even if that wasn't your plan. Okay. So do you feel like you did find yourself when you were there?
I think I got closer to finding myself. I feel like I didn't find myself fully, but I feel like I was, and helped like lead me to the right direction with that, because Bali, like there's so many, because of course, yes, there's a lot of tourists, but there's a lot of digital nomads, a lot of people that work online, but for themselves, so you meet like a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of creatives. So it does just kind of plant the seed of like, oh, well, like, am I doing what I'm passionate about? Like, am I really living like this life of freedom, because I'm doing what I love. And at the time, I definitely realized that I wasn't. I knew for a while, like I said, teaching is not my passion, but it allowed me to go there. So I'm grateful for it.
Right. But it was like a reality check, huh?
Yeah. Like I said, I went there for business ventures, but like things weren't working out. But of course, my backup was still teaching. But it just really showed how ready I was for something else different than that.
I see. Okay. So when you left, you didn't leave because you're like, okay, found myself, I'm ready to leave Bali, right? What was the reason?
Well, for one thing, I had my cousin's wedding in June. I was part of the wedding, so I wanted to come back for that. And also too, I just kind of felt like tired. Like 2018, I moved to 4 countries, in 1 year.
A lot.
I know it's a lot, and then in Bali, I moved like 6 times, like within Bali.
Oh, my goodness.
And also too, like over the years, like I said, it was great. I'm so happy I did it. Like just basically kind of living out of my suitcase. Like I never fully unpacked my suitcase. I think Manchester was the one time that I did, because I had like the storage space. Yeah. But I always just kept things still kind of in my suitcase, and I was just kind of tired, and I was just like, I really just want.
That's exhausting.
Like, it's exhausting. And I just kind of felt like I kind of want to go home for a bit. I definitely did not plan to stay for over a year, but I just kind of felt tired.
You were craving some stability.
Yeah, I definitely was craving stability. I was already craving it a bit in 2018, but after Bali, I was like, yeah, I'm tired.
Okay, so you came home.
I did, yeah. I came back May 2019.
So what was it like moving back? Was it like reverse culture shock? Were you?
Oh yeah. In so many ways. First thing, I was so many ways. Well, one, the prices. I was just in shock with the prices. I was like, wow, Portland's gotten more expensive. Especially after being so used to living in Southeast Asia and in Turkey and Spain. And then you come to the US, I was like, oh. And also too, the amount you pay for your phone. It's like, like I said, I mean, it had been 5 years. So I was just like, wow, okay, that's a lot. So there was that. Also too, how calm the roads are compared to like driving around Southeast Asia. Yeah, I mean, I was in Manchester and they're also really calm, but like just after being 8 months in Bali, I don't know. And also too, the fact that people drive on the right side of the road instead of the left side. Because in Manchester and in Bali, they drive on the left side.
Oh, wow. Okay. What's it like switching to for the first time driving on the opposite side of the road? Was it scary?
A little bit. It was just one of those things you just have to constantly remind yourself, like, oh yeah, they drive on the left side. But then coming back to the US, I was like, oh yeah, I need to drive on the right side, like not the left. Like,
But it wasn't like that much. It wasn't that different, right? It's still like basic driving rules.
yeah, because you're following the traffic, you're like, okay, that's what they're doing. So just follow along. Yeah. So there was just that. And then of course, just like seeing like just people are just in different phases of their lives as well, like in the States,
Because you came back, and so you left in like your early mid-20s, and you come back and now you're in your late 20s. So it's just a different phase for everybody.
Exactly. So that was also something to get used to, that I wasn't, because I guess, like you said, I left when I was 24, we were all like pretty young. And of course, late 20s is still really young, but a lot happens like in those few years.
Oh, for sure. Especially for you, because you were all over the place. And so you had totally different life experiences than the people that stayed here.
Exactly.
So what was it like? Was it hard to be back after these 5 years abroad and meeting all these different people all over the world and seeing different cultures? And then you come back and these friends that you've known forever haven't had that experience. Was it hard for you to be back here?
Yeah, like I think after the first month, like after the like initial excitement of me being back was like over, like it definitely got more difficult because you realized everyone has moved on with their lives without you. And, everyone has their life here, they have their routine, and it's just like, okay, well, where do I fit in? Like, what's my life here? Because I didn't really know at the time. And so that was just kind of difficult. So I definitely felt like quite lonely, like quite a bit, because I just didn't really feel like I connected with anyone. And even though I did try to put myself out there, like it just wasn't really clicking.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely felt like an urge, like I wanted to leave because I just didn't feel like I fit in anymore at the time.
So even though you came back to have more stability, you were kind of starting to change your mind. Like, I actually don't want to be here.
Yeah, because like I said, like, I had felt like there's definitely many times I felt lonely when I was traveling abroad. It's not like I always made friends right away. Like Vietnam, It took me a few months to find my tribe, but like it just kind of, I think it just kind of hurt more because I do know people like in Portland, but like I said, like everyone has moved on like without me. So it just kind of hurts a little bit. Like I said, like there's nothing wrong with that. Like it's life, people move on like without you, especially when you've been gone for 5 years. So you can't expect things to be the same, but it just really made me question like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. You probably felt more lonely here than going to somewhere completely new.
Honestly, yes. Honestly, I actually did. And I think also
so sad.
Yeah, it's really sad, but like I just didn't really feel like I could find people that I felt like I could really like relate to.
Yeah, I get that. So you come back here and you're still teaching English, right? Okay. And so I know now you don't teach English. So, you've been teaching English for 5 years and now you're a full-time content creator, photographer, and entrepreneur. So how did you make that shift?
It's definitely like a leap of faith, like kind of thing. Like photography, I dabbled with a bit, like 2018. Especially when I moved to Manchester and was with Jess, because, Jess, she's a blogger and like influencer, and more so when we moved to Bali. And so I just kind of figured I might as well go full time with it. And then with content creating, like it just allows me to pursue my passions of like travel and like food. Cause I do try to talk about food on my food page and stuff. So it was just one of those things I just kind of felt like this year, I'm just going to pursue my passions and pursue these ideas that I have had, because I just reached a point where I was just really unhappy with like teaching, because like I said, it's not my career. And I just figured, I'm just gonna go for it, because what else do I have to lose? Like, and that's it kind of goes with my mindset that I had a few years ago. Like I wanted to leave Portland so badly. And I would just obviously like I did a lot to make it happen, but I said I would rather try and fail than not try at all. And now, and that's kind of how I felt about pursuing these things. I would rather try and fail than not try at all. So yeah, just taking that risk.
Yeah. And I have to say, I really respect you and admire you for doing that. It's so much harder than it looks. I mean, even just recording this podcast, I was like, oh yeah, I'm a natural interviewer. Like this should be so easy, but it wasn't, like this is not our first time recording this. And I'm like, wow, props to you, Ashley. This is not easy. And it's just, I have a lot more respect for content creators, whether it's, podcasters or photographers or whatever you're doing that, it's a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah, for people that don't know, this is our third time like trying to record. Not trying to put you on blast, but like I get it, because obviously for me too, when I first started, I was really nervous. I was like constantly practicing and overthinking. But yeah, it's like when you're trying to put yourself out there, like especially like creatively, like it's a lot more difficult because you get in your head more, because you're allowing yourself to be so vulnerable in front of like so many people, and like you just worry about being judged. But then it's just, you reach the point where you're like, okay, I need to just stop overthinking, stop thinking about how I'm going to be perceived, and just go for it, and then
No, yeah, like I said, I really admire you for really you're just a go-getter, you're very ambitious, and you inspire me every day. And I'm so grateful for our friendship.
No, thank you. No, you're like, oh my gosh, you're gonna bring me to tears. But no, I'm appreciative of our friendship as well. And I think, like these last several weeks, like I'm grateful for you and being able to like have our friendship grow, but then also like being able to connect with other like more like-minded people like in Portland. So I feel like things have finally started to click in these like last few months, but it like took like a year. Like it took a while.
So tell me more about that. I mean, I know a little bit because I've been with you for it, but for the people that are listening, tell me more about what it's like now, and kind of how it's shifted, and why it shifted, or why it feels better now.
I feel like, like with what I said was just kind of like just connecting with people. I just feel like there was just this 1 week where it all just kind of clicked, and I needed to be more open-minded. I feel like I was open-minded before, but then I closed off. And I think that's just kind of how you always have to be, no matter what. Like that's how I was when I was traveling. And that's why I feel like I was able to make such great friendships while I was abroad. And I kind of had to just apply that here back in Portland, to just really put myself out there, do some things that are like very different that I didn't really do like much before. And I think that just kind of, and also too, I feel like because I have more of a clearer idea as to what I want to pursue and what I want to be doing, it's one of those things that once you're like in alignment, like things just kind of start to happen. Like people start coming in your life that are really helpful. Like things just happen. And that's because you're like in alignment with your with your headspace and like what you're feeling and everything. So I think that's what happened, but it just took a while to get there. And it was definitely a lot of work, because I was definitely reading a lot, listening to a lot of podcasts, really doing a lot of soul searching, like journaling, like figuring out like, what do I want? Like, where do I want to go? Like just, a lot of soul searching. That's what it was. I feel like over this last year being in Portland.
Yeah. So it seems like you just need a little bit of time to do that. And then once you were ready for it, things started to just kind of fall into place, which is usually a very good sign that you're on the right path.
Exactly. So but like I said, it took over a year, but like with like with every country that I moved to, it took a while for me to get used to a place. Like, even though in Turkey, I befriended people right away, it took months for things to finally feel like good and feel like it was easier. But coming back to the US, it was no different. It definitely took time for me to feel like comfortable.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that things are feeling better for you here, because with just COVID and the state of the world right now, and not knowing when we can do whatever we want now, it's probably a good thing that you are happy here because you don't know how long you're going to be here. So
Yeah. And I've heard a quote, like someone that like a podcast I listened to, she's like a life coach, but she said like, she feels like you need to be happy where you are in order to like leave something and like make a change. Because if you don't, then you're just constantly going to be searching for something exterior to try to make you happy. That was the thing I kept telling myself that I don't want to do, even though I wanted to leave again last year. I was like, I don't want to be running away. Like I really want to be like at peace with myself and happy.
yeah,
And like I said, it took time, it took a lot of work, but I feel like I've gotten to that point. And yeah, it's about time.
yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, because you told me when you first got here that you're going to be here for a little bit. You don't know for how long, but that you really you want it to be different moving forward, and you wanted to do like one final big move, right?
Yeah, that's the plan still. And I guess I keep saying that with everything that's happening on a personal level, I just feel like it's a sign that I'm not ready to
Right.
do that big move yet. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm not going to fight it because I've had so many trips be canceled this year for obvious reasons. And so I'm just like, okay, I need to just stop trying to force things. It's
Yeah.
clearly not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
And I'm just accepting that. But I know I will eventually be abroad again, but just, it doesn't seem like anytime soon.
Yeah. But there's no doubt in my mind you're going to be somewhere at some point, So I think it shows a lot of growth that you're able to recognize that maybe you're not ready, internally. Instead of just forcing it and being like, no, I'm going to go anyway, because, I think based on what you've told me is that that's kind of what you were doing is I'm just going to go. So this time of slowing down seems to really have paid off.
It has. No, it really has.
Okay. So I think that, I'm ready to wrap up. So I'm going to ask you just some final questions, and then we'll be done. So what are your least and most favorite things about living abroad?
So I'll start with the least. The least I would have to say is definitely all the goodbyes I've had to make. I've made some really good friends. I've had some like romantic relationships abroad, and I've had to make some really difficult goodbyes that were really like heartbreaking. But that's just kind of part of it when you live a very transient life, moving from one place to another. You have to say like a lot of goodbyes.
Right.
But what I like most, honestly, are those relationships, unfortunately, which is kind of ironic, but I'm still good friends with a lot of people that I've met abroad, and they're like some of my best friends that I stay in touch with, and I'm so grateful for them. But of course, I would have never met them had I not, left. So, because I've had some amazing experiences with those people, and yeah, really great memories, especially eating like amazing food. Like I love that I got to share those things with them.
Yeah. And, they're lifelong friends, there's special moments that you've shared with them and only them. And, it's very likely that you'll run into them again. So that's just how it works when you travel. It's really magical. And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what advice would you give to your younger self or to someone who's never moved abroad?
Advice to my younger self. I guess I would say, well, first, let's just start with someone who's never moved abroad. I would say make sure that you do have like some good savings, like some backup cash money, because I've had so many emergencies where extra cash does come in handy. Whether it's issues with flights or like transportation, usually with transportation, it's just always good to have like backup money. Very important.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think advice to give to my younger self, probably just like don't give up. Because I feel like I never did. Like there were times where I questioned my life a lot, being like, why am I doing this? I'm exhausted, or, this is difficult. But like, I didn't give up because it was just in the end so worth it to just have the experiences that I had, like see the places that I saw, like the stories that I have to tell. Like it was worth it 100%.
So about the giving up part, how many times do you think you felt that in those 5 years of living abroad? Was it frequent, or was it once in a while?
It was like once in a while. Okay. Like it wasn't like a lot, but there were just kind of times where I just sometimes felt like, where is this going? What is this leading to? Like I'm having fun, but like what's the purpose of it all? So but I just feel like with anything anyone does, you'll kind of question things.
It's true.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing.
Exactly.
Okay, so what are some of the top bucket list places that you want to visit and that you want to live in?
So to live in, Spain is still up there. Like I love that country so much. I miss it dearly. But I definitely want to go back there, and like maybe Bali in terms of living. Okay. But to travel to, I want to go to India, Nepal, Croatia, Brazil, Colombia, and like Japan. There's definitely more, but those are definitely like top ones that I'm like very intrigued by. Okay. And I want to like check out. Yeah.
Yeah. All of those interest me too. I mean, basically anywhere interests me, but
yes.
Okay. So last question, what's next for you? I know we kind of already talked about this, but what's next for you? And what are some things that you're working on that you can share with everybody?
Well, right now what I'm working on is just still like working on growing like the business, my platform, my photography, just all of that. Just working on that. And then, since Bali is not going to happen next month, after all, it's just going to be kind of like a waiting game, I guess, at this point. I definitely do hope to go abroad again in 2021. I might do a trip in the fall, somewhere for a month with Jess. We're not 100% sure, but if anything, I'm just going to do more like domestic trips, like road trips in Oregon. Might do some flights around the US. Might as well take advantage of the cheap flights. So I definitely do want to continue exploring, like my city and my home state while I'm here.
You might as well take advantage. Yeah. I mean, you're probably not going to be here again once you leave for a very long time. So you might as well do it now.
Exactly. So that's just kind of the plan for now, and just kind of continue to set myself up. So then when I like do leave, like, I won't be, teaching. I'll just be pursuing like the things that I love.
Yes. That's amazing. I'm very excited for the future.
Thank you. No, I am too. I'm excited, and I'm actually like pretty excited for the present now. Like, so.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here, and I'm glad that I get to have you for a little longer. But I also know that when the time comes for you to leave, that we're going to reunite wherever you are. I just know it.
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%. And I definitely am excited to see where that will be.
Yes, I'm so excited. Okay, well, this was really fun, and I'm so glad that we were able to do this. I have a lot more questions that I want to ask you that are more specific, just travel-related questions. So maybe we can do a part 2.
Oh, yeah. We'll definitely do a part 2, like you said, with more like specific questions about travel. But this was definitely a lot of fun, and I definitely appreciate you doing this with me.
Yeah, of course. It was fun.
For more information on travel and life abroad, go to Venture-Ette.com. If you enjoyed this episode, let me know by leaving a review. And be sure to follow me at Venture-Ette on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Safe travels, and until next time.